Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. This is your place for helpful Web3 news, commentary, and of course, answers to your crypto questions. My name is Evan. I'll be joined shortly by my colleagues, Mr. Alex Popovich and Mr. Will Watson, and our community, the Faceless Many, all the everyday people who are here to learn about future technology like cryptocurrency so that we can rise up and build a better future. That's what this show is named for. We're live Monday through Thursday and Thursday night. Although, quick update PSA as everybody's coming in, we are switching the After Dark Live to Wednesday After Dark instead of Thursday After Dark. 24 hours sooner because football season is starting. American football. Who knew it was such a big deal? We are not terribly active sports ball fans, as it were. So we had an oversight there. We didn't want you to have to choose between your favorite team and us. So we're glad to move the show. If you want to see episodes of the past, then the place to go is YouTube. We've got all our episodes from last week, previous weeks, previous Rise Up After Dark specials on the YouTube channel at Faceless_Labs, all of which you can find at our website, theriseupmorningshow.com. It's also the place where you can get the official Rise Up Morning Show mug. Shout out to folks like Devil King, who just became the most recent member of the Rise Up Morning Show mug club. I'm thinking we're going to cap these at 100 before this design goes away forever, and then we're going to send out tokens to holders. And then maybe, who knows, we'll get a new cool mug. So get them while you can. Premium, the newsletter, and so much more at theriseupmorningshow.com. Enough of a commercial. Shut up and play the record, Evan. Hey, Will, what's going on, man? How's your Monday?
Morning, Evan. It's good. It's good.
Good. I saw your message on Discord, and I was trying to do both places at once. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I will start doing it in the creator chat just out of habit. I have a text with Alex that I usually send to Alex where I say, when it's my day to start the show, it just says 7:03 to let him know that I'm going live at our usual time. Our usual time is 3 minutes after, which is totally arbitrary.
Just how it works.
You know.
Yeah. You know, it makes it special and unique.
I will start putting it in our chat so you don't have to worry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just go back and forth to I just refresh Alex's page and then your page on TikTok and then Alex's page and then your guys' page and then I go and I refill my coffee and I come back and then I refresh. You know, it's a nice little habit. You know, it's good. It stretches out my thumbs.
Man, absolutely. I'm glad to know we could give your thumbs some exercise. How was your weekend?
Appreciate it. It was good, dude. I was in Watch Hill, which is in Rhode Island. It's where Taylor Swift has her house and stuff. But it's like it's your cutesy little prototypical, very, very, very wealthy like New England coastal town. So the image that you have in your head is absolutely correct. Picture it.
I've got it. Oh, great.
You got it. And one of my friends, she and her family are from the area and have been for like 4 generations. So we all went as a part of book club to we had a field trip book club. So you can hop on a train here from Boston, head straight down to the town right next to Watch Hill. Okay. And then we just had like a nice little, you know, I learned how to sail, you know, because obviously her family are sailboat racers, as one does in Watch Hill. And her uncles taught me and my girlfriend how to sail. Wow. And then we had our book club. And then we went to like this ultra wealthy mansion on like this crazy peninsula and just started playing slap cup with a bunch of trust funders. It was nice. Are they real people? No. Do they like to drink? Yes, because that's all they know. But you know, they were fun to party with. Man. So that was it. I just got to pretend like I was a 0.1%er for the weekend, and it was lovely.
I am excited for you. That is very cool. That is a fun adventure. I wonder what kind of a book club are you in that you get to, you know, go do field trips like that, man?
I don't know, dude. Some of my friends are very well off, and also like everyone else in the book club's like a doctor or a lawyer.
Yeah, that's my second question: is what the hell are you guys reading?
I talk about pretend internet coin monies. Also, I spent half my childhood on a farm. No, so we read Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. He's a Swedish writer. He's a pretty big one. He's had a couple books turned into shows. And yeah, I would say, I don't know how to describe, his writing is very, very, very unique. And he does a very good job at helping you like connect to people's problems and anxiety on like a really, really good emotional level. He's a very, very like emotional writer where like you really connect to the characters on a human to human level. It's not like a fantasy book, which is what I like to read, right? As you can see from my books here. But he does a phenomenal job. He is a master author at connecting you on a human to human level, which is fun. It's fun to read.
I'm not hip to him. I am a pretty literate person, but in the last probably, 6 years, I really haven't done much reading, but it looks like he's been active for a minute.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend starting with Anxious People because he takes a very unique and creative approach with the book that can piss you off for about a third of the entire book. I hated the book for the first third. And then the last third really saved it for me. And I was like, oh, this is like a masterfully written thing. But I would recommend, if you want to start with Frederick Bachman, read Bear Town. Bear Town, it's a literal work of art. It is the most human book you could ever experience. It is incredibly emotional. And it is such an anxious and like anxiety inducing book that there were times where like I could only read 2 chapters in a day and I had to put it down because I was like, holy shit. I like just had to step away from it. It was just crazy. It's not like heavy. It's not like there's like brutal things happening in it, but it's like the amount of anxiety you feel just like weighing on each of these characters and then on you as the reader is like, I had to just like step away to like go step outside and like refresh my emotional state. Like I've never experienced a book like that. It's a true literal work of art.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
What up, Alex?
Welcome, Alex. How's things in
my
Michigan?
episode of Book Club where I hijack Evan's live stream and talk about books.
Yeah, it's like I said, Will, for fuck's sake, be richer.
Sorry. It's okay. It's okay. I'm a normal person. But I need more money because I gotta keep that Pokemon economy going strong, you know?
The Pokemon economy, and now you've got a passion for sailing in Watchtown. So that surely will run up the budget.
I've learned about jibbing, tacking, you know?
Yes,
which side is the port?
Yes.
Starboard, stern, bow. And I only got hit by the buoy once. No, what is it called? The mast.
The mast.
The boom. That was it. Yes, the boom. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, I'm over here giving Will shit, and I have a captain's license, and
Yeah, Alex, when are you gonna take us all to Watchtown on a sailboat so that we can LARP
Well, I can't sail. I do big ships with big guns.
Big ship, big gun.
big ship tings. Okay, well,
my experience with sailing has exclusively been pulling old rich assholes out of the water when they tip their boats over. And
I sailed with a few of them. That was great.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep,
listen, guys.
that was my last SAR case, actually, was pulling two gajillionaires out of the water when they tipped their sailboat over.
Actually,
they were preparing to go on a trip from where we are in South Georgia all the way down through the Caribbean and back, and they went out for a little tester and didn't read the chart right, hit a shoal, flipped the boat, went into the channel, and almost died. It was a total miracle that we saw them.
well,
Anyway.
I'm glad you were there. Alex, saving lives. But let me say one more thing, because Alex, you're going to be like, God damn it, Will. So I, too, have flipped a boat. I flipped a catamaran just off the coast of Turks and Caicos.
How did you? They're made to be unflippable, you idiot.
Oh, you can flip them, let me tell you. Yeah, and then my brother and I flipped it, and I remember I was like being swung through the air because I was holding onto one of the ropes, and I was like, "Oh, this is not good." It slammed us, and then it happened right in front of a cruise ship, and everyone on like this it was a smaller one. Just everyone was just like standing there. My brother and I are just on this sitting on top of this overturned catamaran, like, well, this is embarrassing.
That's wild.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the show where we talk about all things crypto, even if they are crypto adjacent, like getting lost on a flipped over yacht. You can find us Monday through Thursday and After Dark now on Wednesdays. I was going to ask you guys real quick.
Well, that's actually the boating accident where Will lost his crypto.
Oh,
that was it.
man. I knew it.
Lost my hardware wallet, guys, and I keep my seed phrase in my pocket on a piece of paper.
No, he flipped that boat so hard he straight up lost his seed phrase. It just fell from his life.
You know, they don't talk about that in the commercials on Ledger.
No, they really don't. Coinbase Learn and Earn conveniently skipped that one, but we'll tell you about it. Guys, real quick before we get into some of these questions, can you give us a little teaser for the show that was last week's Rise Up After Dark, in case folks didn't see it, haven't watched the YouTube yet?
Sure, yeah. Alex, you want to go?
Yeah, one sentence summary. Yep. Why should we watch? Rolled into one.
One. If I put it into one sentence, that's
and abstract word pictures are fine too.
Mm-hmm. Because in addition to the brilliant minds of William and myself, we had a licensed securities attorney that used to work for the SEC analyzing altcoins alongside us.
Yeah, and I would say you should watch it if you want to learn how all of these super, super, super exciting, trendy, really good marketing tagline pitches for these crypto companies should actually be analyzed and find out how you can actually poke a ton of holes in them. Through the eyes of a lawyer, and also us, which you're probably used to, but also through the eyes of a former SEC lawyer.
Very cool.
He killed it. He did a great job. It's a good one.
Great job. Yeah,
I have only watched like 2 or 3 minutes of like the clip I was, while it was uploading kind of thing. I haven't made time to sit back and watch the whole thing yet. It's on my to-do list for this week. I'm really looking forward to it.
Hey, Evan, real quick. Mm-hmm. We have a bit of a, for anyone who's heard me talk about this, because Katie, I have unprompted several times. We have a little bit of a Web3 legend in the chat down here with Katie Bettner.
Well, awesome. Katie, welcome to the show. Thank you for hanging out with us. And in case you're wondering, Katie just cannot.
She cannot. But what she can do.
Tell us who she is, Alex.
Yeah, because I am unfamiliar myself as well.
Will is unfamiliar with your game. Katie is one of the. Katie, I don't know exactly what your role is. I just call you one of the head honchos at Wildcard, which is one of the coolest looking Web3 enabled games that's being worked on right now. There's a couple up there that I think are pretty sweet, but co-CEO.
Just co-CEO.
Yeah, Wildcard is one. I got to watch Evan. I was telling when I was on Sam's charity stream, he and someone else were playing Wildcard for a little bit. It was really cool to get to see. It's not fully out or anything yet. Katie will correct me if I'm saying the wrong thing here, but imminently or shortly, but looks incredible. Very excited about it.
Well, excellent. I hope when it's ready that Katie will come on the show and talk to us about it, because, it is what we do here. We'd love to give you a platform to tell people about Web3 gaming. I know we can.
Katie, open invitation, Katie. If you ever want to come on and share some insights, because TikTok, for some reason, TikTok just doesn't understand that Web3 gaming is a thing. And I'm so sick and tired of watching live streams where someone says, "What do you think about gaming as a narrative?" And someone's like, "Oh, well, all it's going to take is one fun game." And I'm like, brother, have you looked? Have you played any?
Did you say, really cool did you say Versa games? What was the? I know Wildcard.
Yeah. What was the question?
Oh, on Polygon. Oh, I have found it. This looks really good.
Alex,
it's,
is
I think,
there a crow sitting like on your actual chair, like at your literal feet?
close.
It is not a problem. I just can tell he really has something he wants to say.
I know. Yeah, he's right there.
He absolutely is right there. He's trying to get on the show. Hey, brother, what's going on?
Anyway, yeah, Will, it's play Jesus.
Play wild card on Twitter. I'm on
Yes.
their website. I have their white paper. I'm gonna
Yes.
be doing a little bit of deep dive.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, Katie, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with us. We do have a couple questions rolling in, a couple things I'd love to get your feedback and opinions on. The first one, and feel free to stop me if you've heard it, is from ICP Nick, our friend in the community, asking us about Bob.fun, which is blockchain on blockchain, is what the ticker stands for. What is blockchain on blockchain? How does Bob work? This is the first time I'm hearing about it, seeing of it. Have any of you guys seen this?
Never heard of this before, but I'm on their website.
Yeah, take a look at this website, everybody who's playing along at home or relying on me to translate it for you. I gotta say, I'm intrigued by this super, like, black on white, text light website. The headline is Bitcoin's consensus with Doge's utility, which sounds like I don't know, that sounds like the start of one of those jokes where three people walk into a bar. You know what I'm saying?
So it's a blockchain built on top of ICP.
Okay, so we're talking about some kind of layer 2.
It creates a secure digital record book that uses ICP's network for safety. But why do you need that if ICP's blockchain is already providing a digital record book? I'm curious. Okay. My initial thought out the gate is just seems repetitive.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to. I'm at the same spot. Nick, give us some context. Why do we need this chain? What are we doing with it? Aside from the fact that they have a dead simple website that is, kind of fun.
So I'm reading a little bit more into this. It sounds like you're taking a proof of work blockchain and putting it on top of ICP. So you can deploy your smart contracts or your canisters in this sense on bob.fun, and then you can create a mining system where you then mine Bob tokens, but at the same time you also get the utility of ICP's speed.
Yeah,
that just sounds like you're taking some things and being like, we're going to combine these two, but in reality the end result is just like, why? It just sounds like you're adding extra complexities, be able to say you're doing multiple things, but I don't necessarily see there being a benefit here. Like, okay, cool, I can now mine this Bob altcoin and also have utility, like it's built on ICP, but like I don't necessarily need both things. I just really kind of would want probably just utility on ICP. Like I don't really care about mining an altcoin.
Nick is saying here that that people are making $1,000 a day right now mining it, and I said, why? Is it an intention get in early kind of thing? And his response is burn rate on CT, and I don't know if CT is short for contract or crypto Twitter, which
crypto Twitter.
I don't understand.
This strikes me as a really, really gimmicky thing that is going to make some people who got in early money, and then it's just going to stop getting used.
And usually for people who are watching, like I don't know, what would you guys say? These kind of things are a dime a dozen in the sense that there's always something new happening in crypto and someone is usually making money from it. But on the other side of that are many people who are losing money. And by the time you hear about it, it's almost always too late to become one of the people who's making money from it. And you become exit liquidity for those people, is my personal experience. Or the returns have diminished so much if it's a hardware play like mining. It can be really appealing and risky.
Yeah,
But rarely
it says that it helps to increase the burn rate on ICP. So like that's nice, but again, that's just kind of like a cutesy thing. But like, if this gets used a lot, I just don't see how or why it would be used a lot. You said that people are making $1,000 a day, so if that continues, yeah, sure, people would use it. It would increase the burn rate for ICP, could be good for the price of ICP, but like I just don't necessarily see people like using this, particularly when markets are so red and sentiment is so low, and people leave being on chain in market conditions like now,
I mean,
So I never I get it. I get the burning thing. People love to burn tokens. I personally don't like it. I think that it defeats the purpose, because there's only 2 instances where I've really seen burning implemented, right? And it's like on a meme coin, which is just a marketing play because I can mint as many of these things ahead of time as I want. I mint planning for the burn. I burn exactly what I've budgeted for myself to burn. I do it to make a splash, and I do it to trick people into being bullish on a pile of garbage. And that's a tale as old as time. That is kind of an opinion, but that's just how they work. And then on the other side, there's people who burn utility tokens, which has never made sense to me, or coins for that matter, because we're burning ETH and all that stuff now. And like I get it, it's a tactic again to try to make it more investable. But I don't like manipulating coin or token supplies with burn mechanics for the purpose of making them more investable at the cost of kneecapping utility potential.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a byproduct of these things like losing users because the investability of the project is deemed to be not as good as something else. However, at the same time, if we really want these things to be adopted, you want to get these things into the hands of as many people as humanly possible, which inherently means that to be truly utilitarian, you need to be kind of a bad investment, because it needs to be widely available and it needs to be able to be acquired for low cost and used with little friction by as many people as humanly possible. And if you keep burning stuff and doing, things that incentivize more people to do more things to burn more stuff, then it's harder for users to get your tokens, and then your user base is going to be smaller and you're hurting your network overall. And I don't like that.
Yeah, the counter argument to that, though, is even if the tokens get more expensive because of the burn and makes it more investable and people dive in, demand drives, yada. Demand up, supply down.
And that totally makes sense. I totally get it.
Well, that's not the point I was going to make. What I was going to make is you'll always, because of the fractionalization nature of cryptos, it doesn't matter if you're able to afford one whole coin or not, right? It's just being like it'll get expensive to the point where you just have small fractions of it being able to pay for what you need in game, in DeFi, blah blah blah, right? That's the argument against that. It's like that kind of argument to me kind of starts to fall short, because like if you can't buy a whole Bitcoin, is it worth buying fractions of a Bitcoin? Like, yeah, of course it is. But granted, that's not a utility token. So not the same one-to-one argument, but. To me, the fractionalization nature makes that argument just have less teeth, in my personal opinion.
I feel like that's an argument against utility coins, though.
Yeah.
But
I knew where you were.
Always, well, that's the thing. The thing to me is that the difference between a utility coin and then just like, I don't know, pick a meme coin with a burn rate is just the sense, like there really isn't a ton of difference other than you can use the coin to pay for something that is valuable, right? That you're going to use in some way. But like you'll always be able to use it because if the coin gets more expensive, you'll just use a smaller fraction of the coin,
I feel like almost nothing has as much niche value. Let me back up. This is a difficult thought to phrase. Nothing has as much value as a thing which can buy more things. And there is no product so valuable that I would go buy another currency that can only buy that product to sustain that business model forever. Like Chuck E. Cheese is awesome. People love to go there. And people love to buy tokens to play games at Chuck E. Cheese. But like on a long enough timeline, the kazoos and t-shirts and little finger puppets and stuff, that's all going to zero. The games are fun.
The Chinese finger traps.
Yeah. I don't know why I said finger puppet, but you know what I meant.
Today on the Rise Up Morning Show,
yeah.
Evan is bearish on Chuck E. Cheese.
I'm bearish on words. But you see what I'm saying? Like a token I can only use there is never going to reach the market cap of Nvidia or the dollar, which I can use to buy groceries and also tokens at Chuck E. Cheese. You know what I mean? Like, well, I don't know. I feel like
counter argument to that is,
okay,
how dare you insult Chuck E. Cheese? But secondly, in Maine we had Jokers. That was our version of Chuck E. Cheese in Maine. But no, it's like the counter to that is Ethereum. You know, like I will take my money to go buy the money of Ethereum to go use Ethereum.
But that's because Ethereum is a whole world. If these other places become their own whole worlds in that kind of a way, I just don't think most of them will. I agree with that.
Sure, yeah, totally agree with that. But like, you know, every single conversation we have in crypto is us knowing that what we're talking about, 99% are scams, are garbage, or are small companies that are going to fail, even though they're trying their best, right? Like, you know, that's no different than any other topic we have in the crypto space, in my opinion.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, personally, my goal with talking about burning this way is just that it's one of those things that I see constantly perpetuated as more and more people try to launch something utilitarian.
Oh, sure.
And I just desperately want to see a world in which we recognize that not every widespread adoptable token needs to also be built in such a way so as to incentivize more investors. Because my belief is that in the long term, if all you truly want is something to be investable, one, we have to break the narrative that like if it doesn't 4,000x, it's a pile of garbage. And two, just to say like, hey, it's okay if something just doesn't go to zero and it just does well, and you buy some of this stuff and then you get to use it, and you can do more of it because you can afford to get a few more of these things, and you can do more stuff on it, and all of this is good. And it's just not really looked at that way, because the fractionalization argument is valid. You know, of course you can get some, but you can just get less, which means you can do less, which is unfortunate.
Well, the do less part isn't true, because the fractionalization that you buy in the future is still worth $100 as compared to the $100 you bought when you still had more coins. Because of the economy changing within that system, your $100 is the same in terms of how far it can go in that system, even though you have more or less coins.
Right. So the cost of use for a token then needs to adjust constantly and accordingly to keep up with the rise and fall of the price in US dollar equivalency, which is also a kneecap, in my opinion, with the cryptocurrency constantly having to be referred to as a US dollar equivalent, which I thought was kind of the point that we wanted to escape from eventually.
You know, that's why Coinbase is so big, or Base specifically is so big on listing prices in ETH, because they consider the
you have to. We got to start walking away from everything being a US dollar equivalent. Like, if the whole point of it is not to eventually walk into the grocery store and spend your whatever, which is not the purpose of every cryptocurrency, right? Then, yeah, I completely agree. It's nonsense, and it's silly that we keep only thinking about things with regards to how many dollars can this get me, and what do I have to do to make it get me more dollars. In that case, just keep the dollar and, I don't know, play a Ponzi.
You know what, though, Alex? That's why it's so important, because Nick makes the point that this is doing so well. Thank you, John, because people understand the value proposition of this Bob token. They understand log in, spend $1, and make more money. Like, it's written this way. It's as simple as this, I think, because they want to help get people in. And it sounds like what you're saying, and what I kind of have a problem with too, is like, there are so many ways to get people into crypto, and it would be awesome to like put more money in their hands. while we get them in the door. But also, so many people will be scammed, schemed, or become more vulnerable to scams and schemes when this is the kind of thing that they're looking for all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had this conversation before too. So value is subjective, right? Depends on the size of the group of people who think that the thing is valuable and how committed they are. Because the point that I made was like, hey, you and I could mint an NFT collection right now. We could distribute all of the NFTs between the three of us, and we could just collectively agree that we're going to set the floor price at $1 billion. And guess what? The floor is now at $1 billion. And you can do that. I mean, it's harder and harder and harder progressively as the size of the group gets up, because you need more and more, more and more people to be synced up as they're planning and scheming these sorts of things, but theoretically it's possible. So if what we ultimately wanted was to put more money in the hands of more people, all it takes is collectivism with regards to the crypto token or coin in question and the project in question. And we just have to decide that it's valuable. And oh my God, look at that. All of a sudden it's valuable. And that's sort of that, I don't know why. I thought this was supposed to be the UP with no people, but it's just crowded as hell. But that's the opt-out idea, right? You opt out of the current value system because it hurts so many people and it's, so exclusive and whatever, and you opt into a different value system, except all of the opt-outable systems are just dollar equivalencies. And so you're not really opting out of anything, Opt out of Bitcoin into what? More dollars? And it's just kind of silly. So I think the burning part is just one of those ingredients that, long term kind of hurts it. And I don't know. That's one that I feel like we're going to struggle to break away from, but I would like to see it happen.
So the final things I guess I'll get on this is, I agree that when a company or a project, like one of their like leading marketing things is like, we have a burn rate. You're like, oh, you're here for a short time, not a long time. Not necessarily because of the burn rate, but because if it's something you're leading with, it's something people are like, oh, this is going to increase the burn rate of this thing. I immediately go like, oh, I don't need to pay attention to this because it's not serious, right? If you have a burn mechanic in your project and it's just a part of your project, you're talking about your project, then I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it's not a red flag. But if there's a marketing thing that's really leading with the burn rate, it shows me that like the team, the marketing, the community are really just like trying to focus on number go up as opposed to like delivering something cool and useful, right?
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you, but I still disagree on burn mechanic being bad or good for utility tokens. And then but again, for me in the Web3 space from day one till even now, when it comes to like being in Web3 and on-chain, I really enjoy being on-chain. I like the benefits of on-chain. I want for things to be priced in ETH instead of dollars. Yeah, sure, that would be great and wonderful, whatever. But for me, it's like I'm here first. My priority, my mindset is I'm here to increase my net worth, and as more important than being on chain for my own personal goals. Although I do really love what being on chain can deliver to people and to myself and other things. Right? Doesn't mean I don't love it and enjoy it. But number one is increase my net worth of what can get me the things that I want in life, that can get me to the point of being secure enough to like have children and do other things and keep building my own personal life with my family, right? And that world is very much so priced in dollars, right? And if that changes one day, then that changes, right? But that's where I come from looking at this.
And I don't think, first of all, the thing you said is about, just to back up a little bit, the thing you said about the
leading with the burn rate.
The burn rate, yeah. One of my go-to sayings with that is like, if I see too much focus or even just a specific focus from a team on burning tokens, then to me it says that I'm more interested as a team. I'm more interested in the short-term price action of my project than the long-term survivability of my ecosystem, which is bearish. Not that you can't flip quick on it, but like, dude, you can flip quick on 20 gajillion crypto projects. There's nothing unique or new or exciting about something that is quickly flippable. So, miss me with that shit. I would rather gamble in the meme coin casino than try to play your complex game of theoretical utility where I burn stuff. Something that would be way cooler for the record would be not burning, but collecting from, and then having some sort of redistribution method where you can onboard new people by taking a supply out of this like collection treasury from everyone else's use case and then use it as a fund to onboard new people and give, micro grants to new users to get them on and get them start using things, which I guarantee if they did that would be looked at as a bad investment and people would talk shit about it, even though it would be cool as hell. But no, Will, to your final point there, I think that that's super valid, right? In this world that we live in, it's silly to say that you cannot focus on the acquisition of the dollar because you need to do more stuff. You need to pay for food and you need to pay for all of your living expenses. And we live in a world full of material costs and you have to spend money on that kind of stuff.
Also, Will, you want to have kids?
I think I would be a good papa.
I think you'd be a great dad.
How annoying is the road here?
No, it's mostly annoying to you.
It's mild, but I'm mostly annoyed by you. Our disagreement. No, I'm joking. Everybody, I love Alex.
We never get to disagree.
I know we never get to disagree. But guys, look at this cordial disagreement on something in crypto. Wow.
Yeah. All I was going to finish with is just to say, like, that's all valid. I would never disagree with that as like a goal. All I would say is that we have so many cool projects that they don't all have to be a way to get you more money. Like, think about how many things we do in our day-to-day lives just for the sake of being able to do them, or, the functionality of something, or the enjoyment or the pleasure of doing something, where we know that this is not going to increase our like capital net worth, but we're going to do it anyway because it's worthwhile for reasons.
Myriad reasons.
And I just want us to get to a point in crypto where not all of it has to be a money grab. Like, some of it could just be, and I think that Base is starting to like break that barrier down a little bit, where like something like Zora, for example, it's like, hey, no one is doing this to get rich. They're doing it because for the purpose of like the sanctity of my artwork, I would like to protect it with a token. And here's a vehicle for me to do that. And it's cheap for me to use. And I don't have to then try to sell it to somebody for $20 million and make up a bunch of bullshit. I can just secure my art on chain, and that's cool. And that's exciting, and that's worth it to me.
Yeah. Okay, so let me add this nuance, though, and I'm going to do it by way to segue us to this next question. We had a really good question about, like, does the election really matter for crypto? People are talking about the election in the U.S. People are talking about politicians adopting crypto or not, supporting it or not. And I'm going to see if I can weave this idea together. I think if all you care about is, or what you care about most is your ability to increase your net worth in dollars, that coming on chain and understanding like tokens, non-fungible tokens, et cetera, and even starting to think of them as bigger than dollars or beyond dollars, pricing things in, ETH or whatever, is the most helpful thing you can do. And I think that's because crypto, though nothing is totally inevitable, seems to me at this time for our world inevitable, especially in light of the current financial system, which the fiat money system, the government money system, your money backed by faith in a government and their promise to pay it for you, when only a handful of people have permission and control to print more of it, to adjust the rates of interest, to reduce or increase the supply, who have a vested interest in propping it up, it's a house of cards. And I don't think that Kamala, Donald Trump, anybody in the world, RFK, maybe would be the closest, to somebody aligned with my interests. But anybody who is continuing to build up the system, which contributes to like the hegemony of fiat money, the dollar, the power of that kind of thing in the world, I think is just on a ship that's going down. I think because crypto is here, crypto is pretty much the way things are going to go. People want a global permissionless money that is free, that they can own. The government doesn't really want us to have that, at least if they can't get their piece of the pie. And so I think that one thing will overwhelm the other thing, that the money of the people, the power of the people will overwhelm the power of the establishment, the money of the establishment. And so does it matter who you vote for? Of course. because they'll have a big influence on policy. But in terms of what will happen with crypto in the future, I don't know about you guys, but I just have never really seen the election as important for crypto in that sense. Am I overestimating the power of crypto in the long run, or underestimating the impact of like any one candidate on policy right now? Do you think?
I mean, short term, it might have a specific effect. Long term, probably not really, because the government is a machine that is incentivized to continue to do its thing. And what that means is that it needs to constantly adopt new talking points to fight about, but not actually solve. Because if you fix the problem, then you can't run on it next time. So crypto has now entered the picture as a thing that they realize has teeth that can be run on, which means that they're not incentivized to fix it or build it properly. They're incentivized to churn people up about it so that they can use it to run elections. Now, so it's fresh. We just got it. It just entered the political conversation very recently. So we've got a long road ahead of us. But I think the other thing that's going to happen with regards to the election is, regardless of who ends up being elected, they're going to get elected, and we're going to get into the first 100 days, and people are going to realize, like, oh, wait, they said X, Y, and Z was going to happen in the first 100 days. It hasn't, for X, Y, and Z reasons: red tape, bureaucracy, blah, 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 bullshit. And then all of a sudden, we're right back in where we are now, where we realize that Congress is hyper ineffective. Not much ever gets done. They're constantly in recess. And when they're not in recess, they're arguing about nothing and refusing to pass any legislation. And we just grind back to a halt, and nothing really gets accomplished anymore. And occasionally an executive order comes out, and maybe if Trump gets elected, there will be more executive orders than if Kamala gets elected, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that government doesn't really do that much anymore, and they're mostly ineffective. When we labeled Congress as the do nothing Congress, I forget the exact number, but they had passed hundreds of pieces of legislation that year. But it was down so much from usual that they got dubbed the do nothing Congress. Right now, we're at like less than 10% of what that Congress was doing. And most of what we do is naming statues after war heroes. So it's not real legislation. So no, I don't think long term it's going to have much of an effect. I think crypto is now just on the ballot, in the sense that this is a thing that more and more candidates are going to run on. And ultimately, not a ton is going to change, especially in the short term, with regards to regulation. I mean, we keep saying do regulation, but no one is really suggesting any legitimate making a Bitcoin strategic reserve is not regulation. Firing Gary Gensler is not regulation. None of this is like legislation. It's nice. It's nice thoughts. It's little fortune cookies. It's not real.
Yeah.
I like.
Okay, so what do you think?
Yeah, I like the point that you made, where it's like crypto's on the ballot, because I think they see it as something that can't go away because of the decentralized nature of it, which makes it something they can continuously run on.
Yeah.
And there'll always be things. I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. But Evan, I agreed and also disagreed with you, but also, like, philosophically, you and I both kind of see things a little differently. But like, I think that blockchain technology, crypto, and therefore being a part of that long term, because it's decentralized, this election doesn't matter because of that in terms of the long term picture. I don't necessarily think it's because, like, the only thing I disagreed with is like the will of the people beating the government. That happens in like rare cases, but like it'll end up, reality will be some kind of pairing of both. I think there'll be like worlds of both, just because a decentralized nature will always leave an option for people to do their thing on, and the government and the centralized and the powerful will always kind of get their cut. But this election should probably have an effect on the markets short term. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with Trump having a more thorough, built out crypto side of his platform. Whereas right now with Kamala's, we just kind of have from her head of campaign being like, she wants to support new technology. And like, that's kind of what we have for Kamala. And then we've had, I think, the head of XRP, or one of the heads, like, endorse her, right? She's accepting crypto payments for donations now. So like, there's some stuff, kind of.
Yeah,
right?
The Ripple, it was one of the co-founders of Ripple, who's not one of the Garlinghouse or Schwartz, is a different guy.
Okay.
And
Garlinghouse, Schwartz, and the other guy.
Her campaign, just a noteworthy clarification, her campaign is not directly accepting but one of her big PACs that supports her is
Okay.
accepting crypto donations on her behalf. But it's
Got it.
it's not her camp. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But if you're looking at like both the candidates from a crypto standpoint, Trump's party has a more thorough, built out platform and standing on it than Kamala does, but Kamala's warmed up a little bit to it, right? However, there will be an impact on markets as of right now if, and I'm saying this as a registered Democrat, if Kamala wins, I expect markets to take a bit of a downturn right now. It has nothing to do with the crypto policy. When I say the markets, I mean like the stock market, right? Because Kamala has a very, very thorough revision that she wants to do to the corporate tax strategy, right? It isn't just increasing corporate taxes, but it's trying to get rid of all of the loopholes that corporations are able to go through in order to make sure that they don't, pay zero taxes. Like that one year where Amazon literally paid zero taxes, So because of those attempts at blocking areas for corporations to avoid having to pay taxes, that means that if Kamala wins, that could take a hit on the profit margins of companies in the U.S., which would be bad for the stock market, right? So there is that scenario where if Kamala wins, there could be a short-term dip in stock markets as stock markets are forward-looking and they count for them having to pay more taxes moving forward. And if the stock market goes down, very high correlation between the stock market and Bitcoin. Bitcoin could also take a hit too, but it's not because Trump has a more built-out stance on crypto right now than Kamala does. It has to do with the corporate tax strategy that Kamala wants to do to try to make sure that, in my personal opinion, companies pay their fair share. But that is an impact on markets that I am saying is a potential likelihood that I see happening. And I, as a registered Democrat, if Kamala wins, I would expect a short-term dip in markets.
Right, but they're both like different versions of the same thing. Like Kamala wants to, you're talking about the tax plan. You're talking about government control over industry and production as the means to progress, versus like, I won't call it fascism, but a more right wing a more right of center approach, independent control, not government control, but perhaps corporate control to accelerate the wealth of people. But they both are very different from what is the proposition of something like crypto generally, which is, open at the foundation, and the people are able to form many different pockets of what kind of governance structures they want. I think those are both really good nuanced takes that you give. And I want to just point out that a lot of this comes from PACs too. Like, I don't think the presidential candidates are talking about this because all of us are talking about it, as our electorate should. I think they're talking about it because crypto PACs, the fair shake people, have donated more than the Make America Great Again people, and they've spent less, meaning they have more room to go. This is a huge election for crypto because people with money want the candidates to talk about it. It's not because everyone everywhere is using Bitcoin to do stuff and the candidates are like, oh, we should learn about this stuff. It seems important to our people. No. It's because the folks who are writing them checks. And I actually read a really good, I can link it in the Discord, a really good article just about the interconnectedness of like foreign interests in funneling money to our elections for crypto and crypto policy in the near term. I don't remember enough to speak on it intelligently, but that's a real big part of it right now too. Can I segue you guys to another question that we just got asked that's in the same vein, or do you have another final thought? This is from Papa Aztec, who is a new to me username. So Papa Aztec, if you're new, welcome. And if you're not new, I'm so sorry, I just haven't remembered your name yet. You got to come back more often so we can get familiar. What is, they ask, the biggest, threat to crypto the biggest threat that crypto poses for the financial system? What's the biggest threat that crypto poses for the financial system?
Well, if you go and use a decentralized exchange, you don't need to go use BlackRock or Morgan Stanley or Fidelity or E-Trade or any of those companies, and then they can't get their service fees, right? On the other side, if you go and use those services as opposed to decentralized exchange, you don't have a safety net, right? You don't have somebody who can hold your Bitcoin for you. You don't have to worry about you sending your XYZ crypto to the wrong type of address and it's gone forever, right? So you're losing a cheaper experience for security because you're paying for that security. So both options would exist, but they being those major financial firms can potentially lose out on revenue and customers and assets under management. It hurts their ability to make money. That's the biggest threat that crypto poses to them. It's literally hitting them where it hurts most in terms it's people and money and assets under management, which they charge fees off of. It's how they make money.
Yeah, that entire industry is funded by being middle people who take a fee to do a thing, and if you find a way to opt out of the middle people system, then lots of people start to lose their money. And the best way to visualize that is the experiment in Lightning Network Bitcoin tipping that Twitter ran a couple of years ago, before old Elon got his hands in there. Where, Evan, I forget the figure off the top of my head, but it was
for Lightning.
It was how much money Western Union makes on an average year, just off of remittance payments to El Salvador specifically. And it was
El Salvador specifically? Jesus, man. What is this, trivia?
Yes, it was this. I mean, this specific figure was really. It was the whole impetus for the conversation because
this is the money that they saved once they switched to Lightning. Yeah.
Well, no, it was because El Salvador had legalized Bitcoin as legal tender, so federally recognized. People in the United States could send remittances via Bitcoin to their families in El Salvador, and they didn't need to ever sell it back into dollars at any point. They could keep it in Bitcoin. And there was a figure of just that, like super niche case, how much of an impact that made on Western Union's bottom line for the year.
$80 billion was the figure, Alex, in 2023.
That's the threat. That's the threat right there. And that is one fringe use case where one country whose global contribution to the world GDP is not massive, they did that and it hurt that company by that much. That's the threat in a nutshell.
And I would say any industry that relies on intermediaries to do a job where a computer whose programming we could verify effortlessly, where that computer could do it better, the way your calculator does math, any industry that relies on people to do that job will be disrupted by blockchains, smart contracts, and money specifically, the financial system specifically, right now depends on only a handful of people having power. The whole power system of our geopolitical, network, the US dollar has so much influence. Our country is powerful in part because people rely on our currency. But could you imagine the power, the destabilizing power that a global, permissionless, uncensorable currency backed by every member of the network who uses it, this growing network, which is programmed to be scarce and is easier to move around than the dollar? Could you imagine the demand for that in a place where they don't have a helpful currency or where they don't want to give a deeper platform to U.S. political influence? That would be huge. It is huge. And so that's the threat. It's a destabilizing, world-changing threat. And I don't think it's an overestimation to say in finance, but many places.
Yeah, I mean, you see that adoption everywhere where they have their currency being inflated into oblivion.
Yeah.
Turkey's a great example.
They asked a follow-up question about the SEC, and this is what it says. Papa Aztec asks, so cutting out the middleman, is that why the SEC war in crypto? I think what they're asking is that why the SEC is against crypto? Because the SEC as a government agency is sort of a middleman. And honestly, I would just say it's unclear to us why the SEC is so ineptly against crypto.
You got to protect that machine, dude. You got to.
Of course, they're part of that machine. That's why they're against crypto. But I just mean to say they're so inept about it and so inconsistent about it. I mean, they don't even. They say the regulation is clear, but the regulation is not clear, and I don't know. We could. I don't have a concise answer to that question because it's frustrating.
I would say it's just like the SEC is a cog in the machine, right? It's like Gary Gensler wants a very nice, cushy, high-paying job when he's outside the SEC. He needs to get hired by those firms that are going to give him that high-paying, cushy job, right? They're only going to give him that if they do what they want him to do, which is to try to hurt and mitigate this industry as much as they can. Or also, side note, because the Bitcoin ETFs are out, enable them an extended period of time where prices of Bitcoin are suppressed slightly so that they can start to scoop up some more of it so that when they do decide, hey, we're going to let this thing pop off, they have their backs, right? It's both. It's both. They play both games. It's like a hedge fund, right? A hedge fund will buy an asset, let that asset go up, then they will set a short position so they can sell that asset where it was made profit, but they have so much of it that then it starts going down and they make money off that short position, and then they play that game. So this is the major financial institutions playing that game with, let's get as much time to buy Bitcoin at cheap prices as possible before we then get to the point where, hey, we're going to let this thing go off. And then once we let this thing go off, we're going to sell, but we already set a short position. So no matter what the market does, they're making bucket loads of money. And they do that through manipulation and also through soft bribes. Soft bribes, like, you get a cushy job when you leave the government because you did some good things for us. Now here you go, boom, ba 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 ba. We're gonna help you with your campaign. Here's some money. Da, 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 da. It's the game.
Real quick commercial to say, if you are just joining us for the first time and you're getting followed by our accounts or accounts that appear to be ours, please do us a favor. Follow these accounts if you want to continue learning with us. These are our only accounts, and we will never, ever, ever send you a message asking for money or offering to help you with your trading, to see how your trading is going. Anybody who does that is trying to scam you. They're trying to separate you from your money. There are so many scams and schemes in this space, but Alex, 90% of them are avoidable, you always say. So if you just hang out with us, it's not like some special skill. We're not super genius, though, we are fun and kind and handsome and very humble. We want to help you spot this stuff. We're just everyday people like you. And the best way is to tune into the show, join the community. It's all totally free. You can find it at theriseupmorningshow.com. Head to the Discord community that's there. Come in, ask us a question when the show's offline. Or, of course, come back and hang out with us Monday through Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's when we're live. Monday through Thursday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, 8 a.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. UTC, and we'll be live after dark at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's gonna be fun.
I'm having conversations with Alex right now in my DMs. My trading's going great.
I have a fake Will in my DMs too, and I think he's left me on read after I've tried to jerk him around a little bit.
Yeah, no, you just gotta you'd be like, hey man, I'm trying to trade, but I need your seed. It's telling me I need your seed phrase.
Yeah, exactly. You want to do a quick round of resources for beginners if people are just getting here, they really want to learn something substantive, because Papa Aztec gave us one more follow-up, which is what should people read if they want to learn about crypto in general. And I would love to ask the chat, if you have a resource, please do drop it, because you guys know just as much. Mine would be the book Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon. He's general partner at Andreessen Horowitz. It is written in short, digestible bits, and it is meant to help you understand crypto as the future internet, because that's really what this technology is forming the foundation for. He talks about networks. He talks about Bitcoin. He talks about everything you need to know to get up to speed where we are in a very helpful way that doesn't assume you have any prior knowledge. He explains technical terms. And at the end of the book, which is, not terribly long, you're like, okay, great. I know what this tech is, why it matters, what it's going to do, and you have a pretty good idea about how to get involved. Read, Write, Own by Chris Dixon. I think I have an affiliate link to it in my bio, but it's easily Googleable, and it's worth the read.
Yeah, I would also say a really good place to start, because if you just want to understand like Bitcoin and the monetary policy throughout the years and how and why Bitcoin's a big deal, which is where things like Read, Write, Earn then became possible in Web3. This book, which is called The Bitcoin Standard, I know it's reversed, but it's The Bitcoin Standard, and it's by Saifedean Ammous. I don't know how to say his name.
This is how he says his name. Saifedean Ammous.
Saifedean Ammous. But The Bitcoin Standard is a great place to start with that, too, to kind of start to figure out, like, all right, like how and why did Bitcoin become a thing, and like why is it important and stuff. So those are two good books to start with.
You know what's a little bit ironic, but is also a phenomenal place to start if you're not a big reader and you would rather listen to something. I hear it before I say it. Gary Gensler's course at MIT, which is completely free, is fantastic, and it's the reason that people at first were excited. He has since betrayed us and gone to the dark side. But the course is really good. it's genuinely very good. There's a ton of it. Yeah, no, seriously, dude. Like, Will, even if you don't go through the whole thing, I don't know if you've ever looked at any of it, but go pick a random lecture and a random spot. And the way that he talks about Bitcoin specifically, he sounds so impressed and like so favorable, and refers it to the creation and implementation of new currencies throughout human history and all of these things. And I mean, the first time I took it was right after he had become the chair. And I remember thinking, like, this is the single best appointment that could have been made. I mean, and now look. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Evan was there. I think I made a video like right after he was appointed, and it was just.
And I was a holdout for a long time. I was like, no, man, it's okay. It's gonna be fine. I'm like, let's give him a chance. Let him cook.
Yep.
Let him cook.
Yep. Well, he's continuing to cook, and it's not going well.
The food is burned, Gary.
It's not going well.
Please stop cooking.
He's cooked enough.
Oh.
Okay, so two quick things. If you have a question, leave it in the comments, or feel free, if you're a member of our community, to request to come on up, talk to us voice to voice. If you are not yet a member of the community, meaning someone we've gotten to know, like, and trust, I'm sorry, but we're not going to bring you up at this time because we have been burned in the past. We got to keep our audience safe. We got to keep the live stream going. What you can do is jump in the Discord community where the show lives 24/7. It's totally free. Spend some time there. Get to know us a little bit. And if you have a question, the bonus is not only will we bring you up in the future because now we know you, but then in the meantime, we can actually help you make some meaningful progress on it too. Keeps the show safe, keeps it flowing. But we'd love to hear from you. So let us know below, or tap the button to join the show. Get in the Discord at theriseupmorningshow.com. Then let's answer this question here that we have about Bitcoin's energy consumption. A lot of people are concerned about the environment and what they've heard about the environmental impact about blockchain technology. I think it's a really valid question and really valid concern. I want to answer that, and I have a couple numbers pulled up. But before I kick it to these guys to address it, I also want to tell you, I forgot this part of the commercial. If you want to learn live in a focused setting from us, how to quick start your crypto journey, avoid the scams and schemes, get some good resources in a conversation with just a handful of other people, then what you need to do is check out some of our live educational offerings. We're doing it once a week now. This Sunday is when the next one starts. Just a 2-hour live session where you'll get taken through an introduction to our community, some common crypto questions, what blockchain is, why it matters, kind of like the Read, Write, Own book, but live from a person's mouth where you can ask them questions back and forth. You'll get a recording of it afterwards. If you can't swing the live course, you can just buy the recording. It's like $15 if you're not a member. And we also have coming up the 4-week course, which is like the more comprehensive version of that, where we'll also teach you how to set up a wallet, how to start trading crypto on an exchange, those kind of things, and also give you some questions to think about so that as you navigate crypto, not only will you avoid scams and schemes, but you can make better decisions for yourself about what you're connecting to, what you're investing your attention in. All of that is available at theriseupmorningshow.com. I swear to God, that's my last commercial. Alex, Will, do you have a thought on the environmental impact of cryptocurrency, or Bitcoin specifically, proof of work, that can help somebody understand where it's been, where we're going?
Yeah, I don't know where it is right now. I'll try to look it up when Alex is giving his chat. But here's one thing that I'll say is two things are true. One is that Bitcoin not being green and not friendly for the environment is both correct and incorrect. And also, Bitcoin is both good and bad for the environment. Both of these are true, and you can have arguments in both camps, right? That is reality. Now, you also need to understand that Bitcoin being portrayed as not friendly for the environment was a serious tool of manipulation a couple years ago that painted a really negative picture for Bitcoin. It prevented a lot of venture capitalists from trying to dive in and help prop up the industry. It stopped a lot. It halted the ETF conversations. Like, it did a lot of short-term damage to the market, and was very purposeful, very malicious, and very intent. And it painted the wrong picture. Now, Bitcoin mining, the proof of work mining, actually, let me step back. Proof of work, which is the type of blockchain that Bitcoin is, and proof of stake, which is the type of Bitcoin blockchain that like Ethereum is, proof of stake is way more energy efficient, right? Because there's no mining. There's no need to divert a bunch of electricity to a huge warehouse of miners to mine the currency, right? So proof of stake is very, very, very green. And proof of work does require electricity. Now, what is true is that the need for electricity is sufficed both through green means, so wind and solar and nuclear, right? Hydrodynamics, all that kind of stuff, right? But also through the burning of coal, right? Which is obviously bad for the environment. So no matter how green you make mining companies, the need for electricity to become, you're always going to have some of the electricity, even the best case scenario, come from the burning of coal, right? So in that sense, anybody could make an argument at any given time that says Bitcoin's bad for the environment, because even if just 10% of the total energy needed to fuel Bitcoin mining is coming from coal, they'd be like, well, if Bitcoin didn't exist, that extra 10% wouldn't be happening, and that's bad for the environment. So those conversations will always happen, even if Bitcoin's greener than almost every single industry out there in that case, and that would happen there. The other argument that you can make is even if there's 10% or 20% of the energy fueling Bitcoin mining coming from burning of coal, the amount of greenhouse gas coming from Bitcoin as compared to the greenhouse gases coming from traditional finance, which even though you might think in your head, like, it's just numbers, they're just taking money and putting it in markets, it still very much so generates greenhouse gases. And you can go into articles going into that in more detail than I can myself. But the Bitcoin network, which is replacing and taking market share from that traditional monetary system, that traditional financial system, is creating a system that does produce fewer greenhouse gases. That's something that was never spoken about in those malicious attempts to paint Bitcoin as not ESG compliant, right? That was the big thing. It's not ESG compliant, so nobody can touch it. Which is also funny because ESG was a big thing that BlackRock created. They always have their hands in everything. So, but where we're at today, right? So I want to paint all that. Where we're at today is it's something like a quarter or a third, I think. I'll have to Google it. I'll have to make sure, of the energy that is fueling Bitcoin mining is from green efforts. At one point I saw half or more. So Alex, it seems like
Yeah, I've made videos doing comparative analysis between lots of different industries and blockchain specifically. It's probably time to redo it, but it's more than a quarter. The blockchain is one of the greenest industries, but it's new, and anytime something new is a drain on resources, it's really easy to talk shit about it. You just always have to bring it back and ask yourself, like, what do we get in return? Because everything consumes energy, everything. For example, nothing on Earth even comes close to consuming the amount of energy that the beef industry does. Or like if you compare it across the entire planet, right? Like beef is the number one reason we cut down the Amazon. It's the biggest contributor to deforestation, all these things. But what do we get out of it? Food for a gajillion people, so it's rarely talked about. Obviously, animal rights activists and all that sort of stuff talk about it, but like from just a raw energy consumption conversation, we talk about Bitcoin, even though the United States burns more energy every year on Christmas lights than they do on Bitcoin mining. Look at El Salvador, right? They built a geothermal mining facility, and that's all renewable, and that's pretty sweet. And what do we get out of it, right? What is it compared to? What's the direct competition industry-wise to something like Bitcoin? You could say gold. Gold mining, gold transportation, gold protection is way more energy consuming than Bitcoin as a network. It's not even close. Way more destructive to the environment. To your point, it's undeniably correct. Does Bitcoin consume energy? Yes. What do we get in return? And what is it potentially disrupting and destabilizing? And is it more or less energy efficient than those things? And the answer is precious metal mining and traditional finance. And both of those things independently consume way more energy than Bitcoin does. There have been some pretty interesting studies too, or case studies rather. I forget the name of the city. Maybe it was near Vancouver. It wasn't Vancouver, but it was like a Vancouver adjacent. But there was a town that required lots of energy for heating, home heating every year, and they had a lot of Bitcoin mining facilities. So they captured and rerouted heat from Bitcoin miners and pumped it into people's houses and saved a shitload of money. And were able to recycle some of that, and that was pretty sweet. Small case study, but exemplary of.
But there's a lot of that, Alex. The innovation potential for specifically when Bitcoin is mined, we have the ability to absorb surplus energy. So there is a tremendous amount of potential for incentivizing renewable energy development. People want to mine Bitcoin. Why don't we leverage their desire to mine to provide infrastructure and energy in places that are remote, off-grid, have never been connected to power before? Things like light bulbs and washing machines really don't take as much power as you might think compared to something like a data center. And whereas banks, our financial system now, the energy consumption of those banks, data centers, payment networks is not going to those kinds of things for myriad reasons. There is a lot of opportunity to incentivize Bitcoin miners to share their surplus energy with people for whom it could really make a difference. So not only is it becoming more efficient over time, blockchain generally, in terms of energy, not only is there a lot of green energy being used here, but the people are very concerted about providing energy access because, energy use isn't bad. Everything uses energy. It's a necessary evil of living in the world. But is all of your AI processing power just, going to make my next cute vanity filter on social media? Or can some of it be used to make a meaningful difference in the life of another person? And that, I think, is part of the importance of this debate. One quick number I want to share with you about proof of stake, since you mentioned it, Will. Proof of stake, at one time, the Ethereum network consumed more energy than most countries. But now, proof of stake has become so efficient that the entire energy consumed by the Ethereum network in the year is equivalent to 5 flights from London to New York.
Pretty sweet.
Huge reduction. Kardashians have a bigger footprint than the Ethereum network. You know what I'm saying?
That was one of those talking points, Will, like you said, used from a little bit of a manipulation standpoint. Elon declared that Tesla was accepting Bitcoin as payment. Obviously, that didn't work out because, go figure, not a single person was interested in trading a rapidly appreciating asset for a depreciating one. And so no one did it. So, I don't know whether he felt slighted or he didn't want to do it anymore. He pulled the plug and just said it was because of energy standards, and that he would resume Bitcoin payment exception again as soon as it became a 50% or higher renewable energy industry. It met and surpassed that, and he still never went back on it. So, for what it's worth, there's that. But
I do know that the ESG thing did become a huge problem for investors and companies and stuff. Like, it was a real, they're like, I like this, but I just can't because of all this ESG concern. It was boards were stopping people from providing those actions, which, is an extra added point that ESG may have started out as a really good intention thing and then just became a tool of weaponization.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of those things where it's like, oh, this sounds good, and then a few years go by, and you're like, oh, what? Oh man,
I mean,
it's like taking a Toblerone, delicious Toblerone bar, and then beating somebody with it, and robbing their Bitcoin with this delicious, innocent Toblerone bar.
But you can, I mean, it's one of the reasons that a certain political candidate is no longer allowed to, operate a business or a charity in the state of New York. It's like, because it's very easy to hide behind the mask of altruism and just use it to grift more effectively. And, ESG sounds great, seems like an altruistic thing, but of course, what's it going to turn into a way to more effectively grift by tugging at people's heartstrings?
Yeah. It's tough. This is related to that and some of the comments, about just ethics and environment. I had a therapist one time who was really into the Dalai Lama, and he talked about how the Dalai Lama, does not use money. The Dalai Lama eats meager food, but the Dalai Lama also travels by private plane with an entourage. And the reflection he said was it costs a lot of money to keep the Dalai Lama poor.
Yeah, that's immediately, it's just like, oh, the Dalai Lama doesn't need to use money because the Dalai Lama is infinitely wealthy and simply gets things.
So is the Dalai Lama a bad person? I don't know. I don't know him personally. And are the environmental advocates who are flying to go to a conference hypocrites? I don't know. It's all so interconnected. Everyone's just really doing the best they can. You just got to be nice to other people.
Just to prove that it doesn't matter. Yes, so you've got major ESG advocates flying planes, and then you've also got people who just love to hate people like Greta Thunberg. And the last time she traveled for a major conference, she traveled by regenerative energy creating boat, and people still hated her. So it turns out we just hate Greta, and we don't actually care about the environment.
Sure.
So go figure. But I don't know. For me, it's just always it's a risk weighing thing. So Taylor Swift is a fun one to bash on for the use of a private plane. For taking Kardashian flights of 10 minutes in a jet. And so on one hand, does that make sense? Of course, absolutely it does. On the other hand, can you imagine the pandemonium of putting Taylor Swift on a commercial flight? Yes. Would that be bad for that commercial flight? Probably would.
Probably
open up lots of new risks. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Everything just becomes politicized, and it would be cool if we just cared a little bit enough to try to reduce the use of energy a little bit. If you have the opportunity to reduce a little bit, then great. If everyone did that, we probably wouldn't have as many issues, but it doesn't work that way. So we just complain about it instead.
I do want to add one more point on this with Bitcoin mining specifically. Another thing too that will reduce the need for energy, whether green or not, are all of the Bitcoin mining devices. The Bitcoin mining devices are all getting more and more efficient, and they are getting a longer and longer shelf life too. Because one of the issues was you would literally melt these things and then toss them, right? So there's waste there. But now these purpose-built Bitcoin mining machines are getting better every single year. They're able to last longer, more energy efficient, less waste. And so that's another place where the carbon footprint of Bitcoin is continuously being shrunk. So that's something to look at too. Now, a lot of, and that's true across every single industry too. It's just we're so limited in terms of output, but also in terms of waste mitigation by our hardware constraints.
Yeah, and crypto in that regard, going back to the question about what threat does it pose to the traditional financial system, it's more efficient. It's better in almost every measurable way. So that's a big threat. Now, Will, I was wondering if maybe you would take us out with a little. We had a couple questions about this. We always do. What's the market doing? What am I buying? What am I selling? What are we looking at? What are we thinking about? And I wonder, as we get to the place where we are becoming well met, I'm glad to take it in any direction you guys want, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to. It's Monday. We need a market update. We've had a whole weekend. Tell us a little bit about what you're looking at as people throw their kind of last thoughts, questions, and things.
And the data that's coming out this week, Will. I saw your video. There's a lot of getting a lot of numbers, right?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of numbers this week from a macroeconomic standpoint. Also, we're getting a lot of big events throughout this entire month. It's a crazy month from an economic data standpoint. So what we're getting today is, if I remember correctly, we are getting wholesale inventory levels. So what wholesale inventory levels do is they are measuring the amount of supply of goods held in distribution centers and wholesalers. And this is a leading indicator. So a lot of indicators we have for the economy, for looking at charts and stuff, are lagging indicators. They're telling you what happened last month, right? Leading indicators are telling you what's coming down the pipeline, right? So they're really important. So what looking at wholesale inventory levels tells us is it tells us what are the expected demand trends across a whole host of industries within the US economy. So if inventory levels are decreasing, that shows us that people are spending less. If people are spending less, that tells us that companies will be making less money. Companies are making less money, they're going to stop hiring people and maybe start firing people, right? However, if inventory levels are stable or growing or ever so slightly growing, that shows that the US economy is still growing, is still stable, and is in a good place, right? So that's a good leading indicator to tell us in the stock market what we should expect to come in like a month or two, right? That we're getting that today. And then also, I forget if it's Tuesday, Wednesday. I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday, or it's Wednesday, Thursday. We're getting a bunch of inflation data. I think it's Wednesday, Thursday. We're getting the CPI report, which is the effective inflation on like things that we as people spend money on. Gasoline, which should be low. So I'm expecting CPI data to be pretty damn good because gas fell 20% this month, which is why if you look at the gas pump, it's like looking real nice right now. And then the next day we get PPI inflation. PPI inflation measures the cost of goods being bought and sold between companies, right? So that isn't as heavy of an impact on if assets go up or down, because PPI inflation rarely ever really changes. And it's not as direct of an impact on causing the price of goods to go up. But you know, if companies are spending more money on stuff, they want to maintain their profit margins, they might pass those costs on to consumers. So something to still pay attention to. And then on Friday, we get just some general inflation expectation data being released. And there's some other little bits of data being released as well, but like those are the big ones. Those are the big ones for this week. So it could be a very, very, very volatile week this week because of that. And yeah. So where we're at with the market right now is...
Plus, Will, isn't September is usually a little bit of a rocky month?
Usually a rough month.
Yeah, September is usually a rough month. Also for Bitcoin too. But what I was going to say too is the big thing to pay attention to for the month is September 18th, because not only is the US Fed going to be most likely announcing interest rate cuts, and everyone's just debating, is it going to be 25 basis points or is it going to be 50 basis points? So a 0.25% reduction or a 0.5% reduction. But also, the Bank of Japan will also be announcing if they are increasing interest rates or maintaining. And that's very scary for everybody. Yeah. Because if you guys remember, 3 weeks ago now?
Seems like a lifetime.
It seems like a lifetime. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, the Japanese carry trade happens. Basically, Japan announced they were going to increase interest rates for the first time in a long time because the yen's has been getting absolutely obliterated in terms of its ability to store value against the dollar for a long time, and they need to save their currency. It's being inflated into oblivion too. So they announced that the dollar's valuation against the yen fell, and it caused a bunch of short positions in the Japanese markets to be liquidated, and then people had to sell their U.S. assets to cover their liquidated positions in Japan. Caused markets to sell. It was a bloodbath. If the Bank of Japan announces that they are going to be increasing interest rates right now, you're going to see a repeat. There's going to be a rebound. Is it going to be as big? Is it going to be small? You know, we don't know. But you're going to see markets take a big dip down across every single asset. And one thing that Japan is in right now is, do they want to save the economy or do they want to save their currency? Because the currency has been obliterated for a long time, and their economy has also been shrinking for a while now. And the Japanese GDP numbers that we got last week, which we did get, was a reduction in their economy's like GDP growth by like 0.5%, which is huge. It's massive. It's a massive decrease in the growth of their economy. And so if the Bank of Japan wants to stimulate the economy, they need to sacrifice their currency because they would cut interest rates. They would flood the economy with liquidity. But if they want to bring the economy into like a healthier place, they, or wait, I'm doing opposite with my hands. But anyway, I'm doing a bad representation with my hands here. But they will want to save their currency because if their currency gets inflated into oblivion, it's also horrific for their economy, right? So they're on this like razor's edge right now where both their currency and their economy is now doing really poorly, and they need to choose which one to save. And they're probably going to go with their currency because they already came out and said that they are going to be increasing interest rates, which they did last time. They then came out a few days right afterwards, and they're like, hey guys, we're not going to do it anymore if the market's unstable. Yeah, that's arbitrary, but everyone calm down, okay? We're sorry. And then everyone was like, oh, okay, they're going to stop doing interest rates. And they were like, yeah, we're not going to raise rates for now. And they're like, what was that last part? And they're like, we're not going to raise rates. No, the last part. For now? Oh,
yeah,
shit.
Everyone was like, yes, no.
Yes. And they're like, for now. I'm like, oh, no. So, we're now in this arbitrary sense of the market is very much so like being held at gunpoint by Japan's economy because they need to. And if they say, hey, we're going to increase interest rates just by a tiny little baby bit, it's still going to cause a huge liquidation in positions in Japan. And it's going to cause markets to sell off across the board again. So September 18th is a really, 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 really big date.
Really big.
Really big.
Yeah.
Really big.
Real big.
Yeah. And overall, though, if you look at the price chart, get away from the daily and the hourly. Take a look at the weekly and monthly. Take a look at the monthly. If you take a look at the monthly chart for Bitcoin, you just see lower highs and you see lower lows. And you
get
don't
us a little peek of that chart, Will?
Yeah. Let me give you guys a little peek. See. Also, I got my swords on the wall.
I know, man. They're looking sharp. I LOL'd too hard at the video of you in your mail with your hammer, and I was like, Jesus, man, get this man $100,000 Bitcoin so he can get a friggin' helmet.
I need it. So let me do this and let me dim these lights real quick so we have a little less glare. There we go. Beautiful.
Look at that.
All right, here's the monthly chart for Bitcoin, right? And you see lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and a lower high. Although to be fair, we have 21 days before this monthly candle closes. Then we have lower low, lower low, lower low, and a lower low. And the monthly stochastic RSI still has quite a ways to go before it's in oversold territory, right? So that's what we're seeing here. And if you saw my update, this line has been a line of support and resistance for a very long time. And if we hit it and bounce off of it, we have good times. But if we hit it and break below it, Bitcoin falls by 50% or it goes up by 50%, just about. So this is a really key area for us to hold, which is at $52,000. If we break this, the chances of us falling down to the mid-30s is a definite possibility. And Bitcoin's been very attached to the stock market also. Let me clean this chart up a little bit. So here's the S&P 500. And what we see here is when you have a top, right? And you either just barely miss making a new high, or even if you made a new high, but it's barely a new high, that is a very bearish indicator, right? So what we're obviously seeing is and we were talking about this, where when we saw this point here, we're like, hey guys, this is clearly rolling over. This is when I entered my short positions on Amazon. I was like, the S&P 500 looks like it wants to go down, and we foresaw this coming. The other thing to notice too is on the 1 hour chart. Let me zoom out a little bit. Hang on a second. Get out of here. On the 1 hour chart, we have gaps that exist here, and we have a gap that exists here. And for those of you who don't know, gaps are a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but they foretell, and they have a 98 to 99% accuracy ratio of happening, that future price action wants to come down and fill these gaps, right, before it can continue to move upwards. And the other scary thing to notice is that on the monthly time frame, if you really expand that 1 hour, 4 hour, and daily chart, you find additional gaps all the way down here. Right, so this is a very scary area that would really need markets. In order to get here, you really need markets to like get some really bad news, right? Because that would be a 23 to 26% fall in the stock market, which would be absolutely crazy. That's a recession. That's recession. That's if we're in a legit serious recession, right? However, as of right now, I do want to say the U.S. Oh, hang on a second. Come on, flip. The U.S. economy is still strong. Like, we're not getting recession numbers. Unemployment's at 4.2%. Retail spending is still very strong. We're definitely not in a recession right now. So us missing that 20% correction in the stock market is still absolutely on the cards. But in the short term, a fall of 7% to 8% in the S&P 500 seems absolutely on the cards for me at the very least. So those are my thoughts and opinions on it. And keep your eyes on Bank of Japan's decision. Keep your eyes on inventory levels for this week as a leading indicator, because what we don't want to have happen is how a recession starts is you have inflation. Inflation makes things expensive. People spend less money on frivolous things because they're spending too much money on gas and food and electricity and all that stuff. And then because of that, companies make less money. Companies make less money. They start firing people. If people are fired and unemployment goes up, they don't have money. If people don't have money, that's not very good, right? So like that's the chain of events. And right now we've had inflation make things expensive, but we haven't seen spending really reduce yet. But if we start to see inventory levels starting to decrease, then that's the sign that we're in the next step of really getting into the depths of a recession, right? So those are key things to really look at. So we can have a Japanese carry trade situation happen again. That can happen. And if the American economy stays strong, though, people are still spending, we can have a pretty fast recovery. But if the Japanese carry trade happens, brings us down, and spending is slowing down, we can see some lows. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are my thoughts. That's my take on the market.
Well said. Well said. And when it happens, as it happens, we're going to cover it for you. I want to know, do you guys have time for me to bring up our friend E17ON? I always see that name and think of it as Elon, and I just don't know how to pronounce it. And I'm mostly excited to have him in the chat to ask, how do we say your name? Is that cool if we round out the show with his question and a couple of these rapid fires in the chat? Yeah? Cool. Well, then come on up, brother.
What up?
Oh, is he here? I still got a loading screen. Welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show. Tell us how to say your name.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for always being here, for being a longtime supporter. We love to see you in the chat because you always have something kind to say. Now, tell us, where are you tuning in from, and what brings you to the show today?
I love you guys. You're all amazing. You are the most honest guys I've ever met when it comes to not meeting people. If that makes sense.
It certainly does.
I'm an Irish. I'm living in Wales at the moment.
Okay. Very
Originally
cool.
from Belfast.
We love it. We got a couple of great friends over in that part of the world. Our friend Robbie, who's here a lot, is in Ireland too, and I can't recall which part of the country he's in. I know you're in Wales at the moment, but close to each other. Love
Hate
the
hearing
dialect.
my own voice. I find it very strange.
I've been to Wales twice now. Oddly enough, I have 3 friends who are Welsh. I don't know how I started like collecting Welsh friends, but there aren't many of them in the States. But
The internet's a great way to collect any sort of friends.
yeah, well, the thing is I met him in real life, crazy, like in Boston. I've been to Wales twice now, and I forget the name of the town. And Wales is the size of Wales is like, you can say it's close to Cardiff, and that's like the entirety of the country. But they're just outside of Cardiff. I've been there twice. I need to go for a rugby match. I've been trying to. Oh.
Yeah, they're pretty good at rugby, although Ireland's a bit better, but we'll keep that to ourselves.
I'd agree with you.
Well, what's going on, Eamon?
All's good at the moment. Enjoying life, trying to get my head around work, putting a little bit of money into the crypto. Not knowing what I'm doing is very frustrating. And I'm a bit too old to start learning a new skill, but I'm trying.
Well, hey, you're doing more than most. You're trying.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I see you in the comments, spending time here engaging. Is there something that you're particularly struggling to understand or that we can help you with right now?
Wow, that's a good question.
It's the $1 million question, man. We were ready.
Yeah. I guess I'm just licking my wounds at the moment from the... when I first got into crypto, it was through... Can I say his name?
Yeah.
Calvin Hill. He led a lot of people down the path of buying coins that weren't that great at the time or were looking good at the time. But I didn't know any better. I was listening to him and I just threw a few thousand into this one, a few thousand into that one. And now I'm down by 50% on some of them and a little bit more on others. But I was very, very lucky because I bought Sol very cheap.
Nice.
And it's just, well, it's done amazing. So although I'm down on a lot of them, because I put a lot into Sol, I'm still up, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I bought Sol under £20.
Nice.
Good for you.
That was my only saving grace in the whole crypto world.
That's a good one.
Hey,
Yeah.
with crypto, sometimes you only need one saving grace, to make sure you're in the
that's
green.
what I'm finding.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. How long have you been in the crypto space? When is it that you discovered crypto?
Oh, 2 years ago.
Okay. Do you watch Calvin anymore?
No.
No. Calvin, I'll say this. It's easy to be misled by people who speak with a lot of conviction. I don't know Calvin personally. I'm sure if we sat down and had a meal together, I would have a really good time. But
Yes.
he is very much a salesman who is interested first in selling himself and his courses. And there's nothing wrong with making money to live. But I do think it's unhelpful in a space where mostly people who are coming into contact with you don't know what you don't know. And it's easy to be misled by another person's confidence. And it's not as helpful to have a teacher who just wants you to, buy their thing. If that's their goal, you don't always learn a lot. So,
I think he's very good for getting people interested in it. Full stop.
Full stop. End of sentence. Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to find DeFi Daddy.
He's great.
Yep, Nathan's good.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what he's talking about most of the time because he's super intelligent. He just doesn't understand how intelligent he is. And that's a problem for people like me, to try to understand when he's in conversation and he's talking in jargon, and you guys do it so often. You go into, can I say, William, you're probably the best at doing it. Your jargon is just so difficult to understand. For me, Alex is just amazing. His simplification of things. I tell everyone that I meet, if you're going to start to learn, follow Alex, get to understand what they are, like for instance, cryptos and blockchains, and because Alex just simplifies it down to stupidity level, which I'm at, if that makes sense. I think.
It makes sense. We would be kinder to yourself, but we get what you're saying.
Okay. I'd love to find a way to explain to others the way Alex does. That's all I can say, really.
Well, we are all students learning to become better at explaining, and I will say that's my favorite part about doing the show is getting to hear some people I really respect and admire, and also a lot of people in our community who just have a different way of thinking or speaking it than I do. Helps me understand it better.
Yeah. And I appreciate the feedback, too. I'll try to think more of replacing jargon, or when I use jargon to then follow it up with regular words. Because to me, in my head, they're regular words, but that does not mean they're regular words to everybody. So I appreciate that.
But you're still phenomenal. What the input, the output that you give is phenomenal.
I appreciate that.
For me, I just like the way Alex explains everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he spends time to explain it, which is phenomenal. So
It's really,
thank you,
it's really
Alex.
just the idea that
Thank you all. You're all just phenomenal. It's very difficult to find guys like you. As I say, I've been on this space for about 2 years, and you just can't find a safer place than on your lives. It's phenomenal.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. So we're trying to make.
Yeah, I think my biggest gripe with a lot of creators is just that if you're a teacher, if you're an educator, you're never done learning. You're always also still a student. And it just upsets me when people get into this whole thing and then reach a point where they feel like, okay, I have now accumulated enough information. I can stop and just keep saying the same thing over and over again. But the space is rapidly evolving and growing around them. And they're locked in the exact same spot that they were in 3 years ago. And now just kind of coasting off the fact that, I've been here for 7 years or whatever. And it's like, okay, but you've been learning for 1 and you stopped. You gotta keep going. And every day I encounter something new that I don't understand, that I don't know. And rather than just figure out how to phrase it in such a way that makes me sound like I know what it is, I would rather just understand what it is. And then you're only an effective teacher if you can actually explain something to someone. Just demonstrating the fact that you have knowledge does not make someone an effective teacher.
An example to what you're saying is, for instance, last year I was heavy in XRP until I realized there's no point. There's just no point. It's one of them coins that everyone knows about, but no one has anything positive to say about it when you talk long term, unless they are shilling it to you, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
Yep. I mean, you nailed it.
Well, I get out of it entirely. I put a little bit in the XLM, but it's doing the same thing as XRP, more or less. It's one of them coins that people that learn a little bit more about crypto will stay away from entirely, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, because it seems to be going nowhere long term.
Well, what I like about what you said, Eamon, is that you feel like you understand a little more about why that might be. And I would say to you, just by way of closing, it's about our time to wrap up, and we always like to give everyone final thoughts. I would love for you, Eamon, if you would, to share something you have learned or something you wish you had learned. It doesn't have to be profound. It doesn't have to be, a brilliant concept, but just, what's something you wish you had known sooner? Or if you have a different final thought to share with our audience, you're certainly welcome to share that too. But I think it's really good to hear
the
from
most
you.
important thing I have learned is never to just FOMO into something.
Oh yeah.
When you hear on different channels, or you're sitting on TikTok or whatever your channel you decide to watch about influencers, never buy on a spur of the moment. Do some research, and if you don't know how to do the research, don't buy. Just wait until you find someone you trust, like any one of you guys, or DeFi Daddy, or Fitzo Crypto, or there's a lot of honest guys out there, but you have to spend the time to find them. Unfortunately, I didn't to begin with. But my final word is, don't buy something you don't know about. All crypto is good and bad in the same way. And it's all a gamble.
Well said.
That'd be my best advice to anybody.
Well, Eamon,
Fantastic lesson to share.
it was. And we really appreciate you joining us with your voice,
Thank you.
live on the show. It's so great. Come back anytime. Keep coming back and give us an update. Let us know how we can help you. And if we don't see you here in the box soon, I know I'll see you in the chat. Okay. Thank you
very much. Good day.
See you, Eamon.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, final thoughts to you gentlemen, to folks in the chat. If you've got a good joke, a word of wisdom, a question, a suggestion, we are about to take our dogs and ponies, pack it up, and ride it into the sunset. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, here on TikTok. This is the time, if you haven't already, to visit the riseupmorningshow.com and check out the link for our Discord. It's the place. And if you can't remember the riseupmorningshow.com, maybe you can remember discord.gg/riseup. Super easy, discord.gg/riseup will take you right to our home on the internet. And that's where everything lives when the show is offline. Be sure to check that out. Check out our YouTube. Check out the courses if you want to get the Crypto Quick Start course. And I promise you do, or a recording. That's the place to do it. The riseupmorningshow.com. Learn live with us in a focused way how to get started, how to avoid the scams and schemes, how to use your wallet, all that good stuff, plus lots of time for questions and answers. It is all available at the riseupmorningshow.com. And don't forget, if you're a premium or premium plus member, you're the lifeblood of the community, but you're accelerating your learning journey because you get discounts to everything. That's the whole point of the membership. If you're one of those people who's going to take a class, going to get a coaching, going to learn from us in a more focused way, you should become a member. It will save you money. And then you get a little badge in Discord and we'll know who you are and we'll be like, oh, we get to know you better over time. It'll be great. It'll be good for everybody. And it's all at the riseupmorningshow.com. That's the commercial. Alex, Will, who's got a final thought? I'm going to go eat a Toblerone.
I would just echo a thought of a video that I shared last week, which is hodling cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin is usually a really, really, really good way to lose your money. Usually a good way to lose your money. The diamond hand cultures and people who are yelling diamond hand this, blah, 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 usually not good advice to follow. The overwhelming majority of cryptocurrencies are not good long-term investments. Don't treat them like that. Except for Bitcoin, in my personal opinion, and maybe Ethereum and maybe Chainlink and maybe Solana, things that are getting used consistently. But, the best way to make money is not just to be in profitable positions, but to mitigate your losses and to be defensive. Be defensive, get your wins where you can get them. And if you're defensive, your floor is always increasing. And that's the best way to make money. And when you are in this hodl culture of riding these bags all the way down, you're not doing that. Any wins that you had before are then getting erased by the lows that you were then hitting, right? So when investing and trading, try to take defensive stances and get the wins where you can so that your floor is always rising and you're always winning, right? Because you're not losing, right? So that's what I'd say. And be careful of the hodl culture. And yeah, I did see one guy who was talk about when altcoin season would pop up. To me, if you want an alt season, the right now, unless things from a macroeconomic standpoint change really soon, second half of 2025, maybe, maybe Q2 2025, we start to see some altcoins bounce. That's where I'm at. No, it's not the answer you want to hear. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Well said, Will. Thank you, brother. Alex, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree with everything Will just said. I would add that there was another comment earlier I can tie into this. It was just kind of about, what about, so not investing in things you don't understand, all that good stuff. What about getting in and out of something quickly for a flip or quick profit? I would say that sounds great. In practice, it's much harder than it seems like. And as long as you go in with some sort of a rule, that's really the key. So, for example, in my very first bull run, I had the same thought that some stuff I would just quickly flip for profit. When you're staring down the barrel of something that's just gone up, you then have to fight greed. And if you're not prepared for that, it's very easy to convince yourself in the moment that, oh, well, this thing's going to keep going, so I'm going to stay. And that really takes us back to this idea that you just have to understand the things that you're buying. Because if you don't, you rely on all sorts of other unreliable factors to determine for you when you buy and when you sell. If you know the project that you're investing in, whether it's for the short term or for the long term, because that's really step one in determining your investment strategy, is defining for yourself long term versus short term. You're going to have to rely on an influencer to tell you, like, hey, it's time to sell, or this thing has reached its peak, or whatever. And all these things are risky. This is all more and more and more risky and more and more and more unreliable. So for me, even if I am looking at something for a quick flip, I want to understand at least something about it, and that's kind of the conversation that comes into play whenever we look at these altcoins on the night stream, as we're analyzing these different projects. We'll look and say kind of a two-part score, right? Like, hey, does this thing seem like something that could withstand the test of time and be around for a little while? Or is it something that maybe more is only useful in the short term because it's part of a trendy narrative, so it could pump, but then it'll probably crash and crater. So, if you can get in and out, great. It's never as easy as it seems. And really, at the end of the day, the number one rule is you have to understand the thing you're buying, at least superficially. Otherwise, you're going to have to rely on unreliable things to make your decisions, and that's just not the way to go.
I love that Eamon said that. Just don't buy it. And I think that it is so tempting to ask somebody else's opinion because you think they know more, they have more experience. And it is good to get feedback and insight from other people. We do it all the time. But we want you to become a more self-sufficient investor. That's what Will says. And I think it's such a great way to say it, because if we go away, what are you going to do? You want to have confidence to move. And that would be my final thought, is build conviction by educating yourself, spending time in conversations like this one, so that you can learn to make market, whether the market's going up or down. There's something you can do to have peace of mind, to have confidence, to have fun, to gain for yourself, no matter what's going on in the world outside there. Maybe the bull run was the friends we made along the way. Maybe the alt season was, that membership NFT you got for participating in coffee days. I don't know. There are all kinds of ways to not only make money here, but just make yourself more wealthy here. And all of them are, what's that thing that feeds itself? It's the opposite of an Ouroboros. Words are hard, guys. It's Monday. But fortunately, we'll be back. So thank you all for being here with me. Thank you for hanging out. This is your last chance for now to hear me say all of the links for our show are at theriseupmorningshow.com. We would love to see you in the Discord community, and we would love to see you back here tomorrow. In the meantime, join us in the chat. And until next time, my friends, rise up.
Bye-bye.